What's up, my fellow A-Plusers? Welcome back once again to a brand new episode. It is I, your Morphinominal host, Adam Perez, and we've got ourselves another Zenkaigers review for you guys today as we're getting into episode number 28. A little bit late with this particular review. The English subs did come in about a day later, so it happens from time to time. Certainly no worries. But we're going to be breaking down that episode for you guys today, so I certainly hope you've had the opportunity to certainly check it out. And remember, guys, before we even dive into this, these are just simply my A-plus opinions. At the end of the day, though, I definitely want to go ahead and know yours. So what did you guys think about episode number 28 of Zenkaiger? Pros, cons, did it do it for you? Did it not? I definitely want to know your guys' thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below after this particular video airs, and we'll definitely go ahead and continue along with this discussion. So I gotta say, the one thing that I think jumped out at me immediately when we came into this episode, I was really worried just based off of the preview here for this episode that after sort of the two back-to-back really great episodes that we wind up getting with Zenkaiger, a great focus on his mom, trying to go ahead and find his mom, bring his mom back sort of thing. Unfortunately, even though Kaito didn't succeed in accomplishing his plans, just based off of the preview for this episode alone, I thought that they were just going to completely forget about what Kaito's mission certainly was and just jump into sort of a filler episode or just something nonsensical. So the fact that this episode actually starts off with Kaito still doing his search, literally him and Flint taking off in the Zox's ship and still continuing to do their own search, I appreciated it. I appreciated the fact that the writers certainly didn't forget the trajectory that they were certainly on and really gave us little tidbits of information in here, whether that was Kaito still being unsuccessful. It was at least cool to kind of see him going on this search with Flint, who certainly was helping him out over in Vacatiotopia. But they also went ahead and talked a little bit about his father here in this episode also, and I think that certainly did go a long way. So while it certainly doesn't push the narrative extremely forward, it is still pushing the narrative forward in some sense, in the sense that they haven't forgotten about it. So I definitely do appreciate them at least mentioning a few things here or there to at least have some connective tissues to what we've gotten in the previous episode. So that alone certainly impressed me. I will also say this too. I was a big fan of Mangatopia in here. One of the things that I've talked about when it comes to Zenkaiger that I fully love is when they truly just jump 100% and full head on into their themes and the gimmicks that they go ahead and do, right? It's not just the idea of like a monster that loves to read manga or anything like that. He's not just there to go ahead and, draw you into pieces of paper, and that's all that we certainly get. The fact that they push the envelope with having sort of the characters still very much involved, even though they're technically as manga on the page, I thought was just really unique and super creative. Like, especially seeing the Zenkaigers themselves being turned into manga, especially when you even get like Zenkaiser as a part of the manga. Also, like just seeing Vroom and Gown having to carry around pages with them to represent Jurin and Majin, having some of the pages peek around the corner, and then actually seeing the page panel itself and some of the words and the conversations and dialogue that they were certainly saying. So I really enjoyed just the interaction that even the manga characters on the page certainly still brought to the episode itself. I mean, just the idea of creating, like especially in the Zord battle at the end, the idea of the monster creating his weapons and things like that and tossing them to the Zenkaiju O, that sort of cartoony, like right off the page manga attacks. I really dug that sort of, I really enjoyed that aspect of how they played around with the theme here. For me, where it got a little, like where it jumped the shark and got a little bit too crazy for me, is when we actually have the Zenkaigers fighting back and them using weapons and attacks and stuff. Like, it's great when they, were able to change and do their henshin sequence all within the pages of a manga, still being able to verbalize what their intentions and stuff certainly are. Loved it. But once you actually start having the pages attack, then to me, it's sort of just dismisses the whole entire notion of the plan that you have set to begin with, right? Like, the point of turning these characters into manga pages is that so they're not a threat to you, right? So that they can't fight back. What's the point of changing them into manga if the Zenkaigers are still just as powerful as they were in person as they are on the page? You know what I mean? So creatively, it looked cool on the screen, but narratively, to me at least, it just didn't make any sense, and it felt like it certainly jumped the shark. So I definitely had my moments of enjoying the manga theme and other moments where it just was a little bit too much for me. But again, I really enjoy when they invest everything into, like, look, we've got this manga theme, we got to make this work in the most creative ways, and they usually tend to do. And those are the episodes that, while it may not be an extraordinary episode or mind-boggling revelations, it's the effort alone that really makes me enjoy these type of episodes. So for the Mangatopia, really enjoyed the way that he was used in the gimmick, just overall, to say the least. But if anything, I think the idea of incorporating the Mangatopia in here, while we didn't have any big character sort of moments in this episode, the one thing that we at least come to learn to find out is that Zox loves him some manga. For me personally, I've never been able to get too much into manga. I've definitely read my fair share of them, but I'm very much more of just a comic book guy, an anime sort of guy. The concept of manga for me, while there is a current manga out there that I am fascinated from the Star Wars world. I believe it's a High Republic novel or manga that they're putting together. I think it's one of the Star Wars novel writers teaming up with like a manga artist and writer sort of thing, like a great collaboration. So I can't, was it Balance of Power or the Balance of Light? I can't remember what it was called, but there is a current Star Wars High Republic manga that I certainly would love to go ahead and check out for myself. But you know, for somebody who's a big comic book fan like myself, you would think maybe the transition over to manga is a little bit easier, but I've just never been able to pick it up, sort of thing. Nothing wrong if you enjoy your manga, to each their own. Just something that hasn't necessarily worked out for me, but I did love just the enthusiasm level that we get from Zox in here, especially when he sees Vroom, with Vroom's curiosity and wanting to learn and read everything he gets his hands on. I did kind of like that moment in the candy shop where Zox and Vroom are kind of connecting just based off of his love for manga, and the idea that literally one of his biggest treasures that he's ever stolen comes from Mangatopia, where it was in fact some of the best manga in all the parallel world sort of thing. So I love seeing Zox's passion for that type of thing, to certainly say the least. So that was pretty fun. Another thing that really jumps out at me here in this week's episode, it's got to be the Tojitendo guys. Like, I truly love seeing the infighting within this group. Someone seems to always be trying to have sort of that advantage over the other person, trying to show someone in sort of a very negative light, right? Like, so many people just threw poor Ijirude under the bus in this episode, right? Gigi, throwing out the idea that, hey, you had somebody like one of our prisoners escape, didn't you, Ijirude? And you got Bara Shitara sort of backing him up, really putting Ijirude in a very difficult corner where the Overlord Bokawas is not pleased at all. But there is something about the infighting that I truly appreciate. One, I think it gives all the villains characters. Two, it definitely allows them to be very villainous in the sense that you just cannot trust them. And I just think the idea of incorporating problems within the Tojitendo really shows that everybody has motivations and things that they certainly want to achieve for themselves. And so any movement that they make, any decisions that they make, I think really does go a long way and plays very handedly into the storyline in here. So I do appreciate what we're getting from the Tojitendo, because I really love it. I do love sort of just the back and forth and the push that everybody sort of gives each other. But Ijirude in this episode does admit to still having Kaito's dad in stasis and analyzing his brain, which contributes to all his creations that he's currently coming up with. So if you ask me, I feel like that's very much a confirmation of one of the theories that we've been speculating, is the idea that it is in fact the Tojitendo Tojitendo that's stealing the technology and ideas that Kaito's parents certainly came up with. So, you know, the whole chicken and the egg theory, what came first, right? The chicken or the egg? In this sense, it feels very much like Kaito's parents definitely created the gears themselves, and it's Ijirude and them that wind up stealing all their technology, just based off of what he's saying in here, that his creations that he brings up or that he makes comes from the brains of other people. So, you know, I am sure that Ijirude probably does have some smarts on his own, but I am starting to think that maybe Ijirude just is not as bright as he's certainly suggesting. Now, we'll see what happens, right? Because he does say that even though there seems to be no more good ideas inside of the brain of Kaito's father, because of the fact that I think he said there's not a lot of like mental stimulation to really get this guy thinking and creating brand new things. The idea that Ijirude teases something in regards to mental stimulation as one of his next big projects, I am curious as to what that means. Like, is he going to try and mentally stimulate his father now that he's, you know, since he's still in their cold stasis? Is this going to be a new creature that he creates that has some sort of mental abilities or power sort of thing? I am kind of curious to see exactly what that means going forward. So he at least confirms that he has, in fact, a lot of his creations come from the mind of Kaito's parents. But the one theory that I personally had in regards to Kaito's dad possibly being Barashitara, I'm really starting to think that that's not the case, because I was very much under the impression that maybe they took his body, transformed him or experimented on him and changed him into Barashitara. I do still think that there's a chance, very similar to how, or at least assuming that this is how they did with Stacy, the idea of combining him with like cyborg Tojitendo technology and human DNA possibly from Kaito's mom. I do wonder if maybe Barashitara has some sort of elements of DNA from Kaito's father in there also, and maybe that's why they refer to Barashitara sort of as Stacy's dad, if that means anything. So maybe not physically, but maybe there are some genetic attributes that have been moved over to Barashitara, but who certainly knows? So I do think that that theory is a little bit out of the window. But I am still fascinated to see what Ijirude exactly wants with the dad, certainly going forward. So the Tojitendo storyline, if it's one of those things where we don't necessarily get a huge influx of character development from the Zenkaigers, I do think what the Tojitendo is experiencing, the light that it's kind of shining on Kaito's parents' mystery, what it's doing for the Stacy character also, especially in this episode, I think is doing a lot of the storytelling heavy lifting, if you will. A quick honorable mention in here, the gears, we did get it briefly in Dynaman that wind up getting showcased in here in manga form too, which I thought was really cool, getting to see him use like his rose attack from out of the pages to toss it to Stacy. I thought that was pretty cool in regards to seeing how they incorporated the gear this week. The action in general, again, we kind of talked lightly about it. Pretty fun in the sense of at least making the manga theme work, bringing the art to life and using them sort of as attacks. That worked for me in that sense in regards to the big action towards the end with the Zord. And I got to tell you, man, the fight sequence that we wind up getting with Vroom and Gown against some of the henchmen in here, I've said this before, I haven't said it in quite some time. I'm still amazed at just the maneuverability of what they're able to do in these costumes. Like Gown just doing a quick little flip over a piece of the fountain, the way that he rotates his legs and sort of like over rotates his body to kind of land back on his feet, just super smooth with just all the bulkiness on him. And then seeing Vroom literally launch himself off a bench in like a flying crossbody from like a wrestling move on top of him. Super cool stuff. So I really appreciate this episode. Was really fun, really creative, really unique. I thought they had some really great moments of mangas, still incorporating the characters so that they played a role, to certainly say the least, right? Just seeing like Jurin and Majin make little comments, peeking out from behind certain things, still trying to kind of get involved. I was actually kind of impressed in that sense. So overall, a solid episode, one that I certainly enjoyed for a lot of the reasons that we just explained. But I'm kind of curious if this episode hit you guys any differently or about the same. I definitely would love to know your guys' level of enjoyment of this episode. But solid entry. I appreciate the fact that they haven't just forgotten about the adventures we had in the past 2 episodes. So for that, I'll definitely go ahead and give a thumbs up for this week's episode. But guys, at the end of the day, I wanted to go ahead and know your thoughts. Let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below. And of course, if there's any character moments or development moments or storyline details that I missed that you want to further go ahead and talk about, please go ahead and do so in the comment section box below, guys. But other than that, that's going to do it for us here. But we'll certainly be back next week with a brand new Zenkaiger review for you guys. And of course, live this upcoming Saturday at noon Central Time. So certainly join us then. But until next time, do me a big favor. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And as always, keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Full throttle, non-stop. Have a good one, guys.